Hello guys, today we are going to talk about operation with fractions and decimals. Then let's start talking about addition, and first addition with fractions. Then to add fractions with like denominator, add denominators and write the sum over the common denominator. Then to understand better, I'm going to explain an example. Let's check this example. 5 over 16 plus 7 over 16. Then this is equals to add denominators, then 5 plus 7 and write the sum over the common denominator. The common denominator is 16. Then that is equals to 5 plus 7 is 12 over 16, and this is the answer, but this fraction can be simplified. Then let's simplify by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 16 divided by 4 is 4. That means that the final answer is 3 over 4. That's it. That's it. Okay, now let's analyze the add. How can we add decimals? Then to add decimals, write the numbers in a column and make sure that the decimal points are aligned. Then let's analyze this example. Then 31 and 64 hundredths plus 18 and 75 hundredths. Let's see that the decimal point is aligned. That's the condition, the mandatory condition, and solve the addition as usual. Then 4 plus 5 is 9, 6 plus 7 is 13, 3 here and 1 in the next column. Now 1 plus 1, 2 plus 8 is 10, 0 here and 1 in the next column. 1 plus 3, 4 plus 1 is 5. Then the final answer is 50, and because the decimal point is aligned, 50 and 39. Okay, let's continue now talking about subtraction. To subtract fractions with like denominator, subtract denominators and write the difference over the common denominator. Then the strategy is exactly the same, but we have to subtract, not add in this case. Then 5 over 16 minus 7 over 16. Remember, the strategy is write the subtraction, the difference at the top, then 5 minus 7 and put it over the common denominator, then over 16. Now let's solve the difference. 2 minus 5 minus 7 is negative 2. Then negative 2 over 16, that is the common denominator. This fraction can be simplified, yes, by 2. Then half part of 2 is 1 and half part of 16 is 8. Then the final answer is negative 1 over 8. As you can see, yes, fractions can be negative 2. Okay, next is the subtract. How can we subtract decimals? To subtract decimals, write the numbers in a column and make sure that the decimal points are aligned. Then exactly the same for addition, but in subtract, just subtract. Then let's check the same example, or say a similar example. 31 and 64 hundredths minus 18 and 75 hundredths. Notice that the decimal point must be aligned. That's the mandatory condition, and then subtract as usual. 4 minus 5 is not possible, then is 14. 14 minus 5 is 9. Okay, this 6 now is not 6, is 5. 5 minus 7 is not possible, then is 15 minus 7. And 15 minus 7 is 8, and then 1 is no 1, is 0 now, and 10 minus 8 is 2, and this 3 is not 3 anymore, now is 2, and 2 minus 1 is finally 1. Then the answer is 12 and 89 hundredths. Remember, the decimal point must be aligned. Let's continue. Addition and subtraction. Then let's check an extra example with a different case or a special case. Let's analyze this example, this case. Okay, Then fraction case first. 5 over 6 plus 3 over 8. Then to solve this addition with different denominator, with unlike denominators, then we have to rewrite each fraction in order to transform each fraction in a like denominator. Then we have a different strategy. One of these is LCM, least common factor, common multiple. Then, for example, the common multiple between 6, the denominator of the first one, and 8, the denominator of the second one, is 24. Then 24, then it's the denominator for the first one and the denominator for the second one. And now 6 times 4 is 24. Then we have to multiply at the top 2. Then one more time here, times 4 in order to find exactly the same denominator. And the other one is times 3 and times 3. Okay, then we have to just solve the operation. Then let's do it. At the top, 5 times 4 is 20, and 3 times 3 is 9. Then we have to add the numbers now as a like denominators. Then same denominator at the bottom, and at the top 20 plus 9, and 20 plus 9 obviously is 29 over 14. Simplify the fraction if it's possible. If not, then keep the answer. But there is another strategy. 5 over 6 plus 3 over 8. Okay, another strategy to transform this fraction in like denominators is multiply by the opposite denominator. Then the first fraction times 8. Why 8? Because 8 is the denominator for the other fraction. And the second fraction times 6, because 6 is the denominator of the other fraction of the first one. And now find the new ones. 5 times 8 is 40, and 6 times 8 is 48. Plus the second fraction now. The second fraction is at the top 3 times 6 is 18, and at the bottom 8 times 6 is 48. Then, as usual, in like denominators, keep the same denominator and add the addition at the top. 40 plus 18, and 40 plus 18 is 58 over 48. Simplify if possible. In this case, it's possible. Half part of 58 is 29, and a half part of 48 is 24. That means the final answer is 29 over 24. Two different ways to solve exactly the same exercise. Now let's check an extra example for decimals. Then let's add these decimals. 0.3 or 0 and 326 thousandths plus 4 and 8 tenths, and the other one is 57 and 23 hundredths. Then let's solve. Remember, the strategy for decimals is align the decimal point. Other numbers doesn't matter. Is the decimal point must be aligned, and complete other spaces by zeros in order to don't confuse. Then here is 0, here is 0, here is 0 in order to complete. Here is 0, here is 0 in order to have exactly the same quantity of numbers. And now add as usual. 6 plus 0 obviously is 6. 2 plus 0 is 2, plus 3 is 5. Next column, 3 plus 8 is 11, plus 2 is 13. 3 here and 1 here. 1 plus 4, 5, plus 7 is 12. 2 here and 1 here. 1 plus 0, 1, plus 0, 1, plus 5 is 6. And aligned the decimal point, then the final answer is 62 and 356 thousandths. Okay, let's continue. Multiplication. Let's talk now about multiplication. To multiply fractions, then first we have to multiply the numerators, then we have to multiply the denominators, the two denominators. Finally, we have to simplify the fractions, the new fraction. Then let's check this example. 2/5 times 1/3. Then multiply the numerators. 2 times 1 is 2, and 5 times 3 is 15. Simplify if possible. If not, that's the final answer. In this case, that's the final answer. Okay, now what about decimals? Okay, to multiply decimals, first multiply as if there is no decimal. Next, count the number of digits after the decimal in each factor. Finally, put the same number of digits behind the decimal in the product. Let's analyze this example to understand better. 32.41 times 7.6. Okay, then multiply as usual of normal numbers. Then 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 2 is 14. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1, 19. Now with next number, 7. 7 times 1 is 7. Remember that you have to move to the next column. 7 times 4 is 28, then 2 here, and 2 in the next column, here exactly the same. 2 times 7, or 7 times 2 is 14, plus 2 is 16, 6 here, and 1 in the next column here. And 3 times 7, or 7 times 3 is 21, plus 1 is 22. And now let's add, as usual, 6 plus 0, 6, 4 plus 7 is 11, 1 here and 1 in the next column. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 8 is 13. 1 here. 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 6 is 16. 6 here and 1 in the next one. 1 plus 1, 2, plus 2 is 4, and 2 plus nothing is 2. Okay? And now we have to count how many numbers are behind behind the decimal. Or we have to count the digits after the decimal point. Then for the first number, for 32 and 41 hundredths, we have one number, one digit, and two digits. And for the other number, 7 and 6 tenths, we have just one number after the decimal point. Then in total, we have 3 numbers after the decimal point. Then we have to keep 3 numbers behind, after the point. Okay, then here is gonna be the point. Remember, 1, 2, and 3 numbers after a decimal point, because we have a total of that numbers. Okay, then here the answer was 316. Okay, then now let's analyze next operation is division. Then to divide two fractions, multiply the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second fraction. Then what is a reciprocal? The reciprocal of a fraction is just switching the number at the top, and the denominator, that's the number at the bottom. Okay, then let's check this example. 2/5 divided by 3/4. Okay, then the first number must be exactly in the same way, 2/5. Now let's transform the division into a multiplication, and let's find the reciprocal for the second fraction, 3/4. The reciprocal is switch the numerator and the denominator. Then is 4 at the top now and 3 at the bottom. And remember, the multiplication is face to face. Numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. Then 2 times 4 is 8 over 5 times 3 is 15. Simplify the fraction if possible, otherwise leave it like it is. Okay, that's it. Next, division. Now, to divide decimals, move the decimal point in the divisor to the right so that the divisor is a whole number. Move the decimal point in the dividend the same number of places to the right. Then divide as usual and place decimal point in the quotient immediately when you take the decimal part down. Let me explain this with an example. Then let's analyze this example here. The example is 0.86 divided by 0.7. Okay? Remember, division is not possible if the divisor is a decimal number. Here, the divisor is a decimal number. Then you have to move the point, the decimal point, at right until the number in the divisor is or would be a whole number. Then, obviously, we have to move after 7. Now, in here, if the number is 7, it's because the decimal point moved one space here. Now, the divisor is 7. Exactly the same we have to do now in the dividend. Then is 0.86. Now, the new decimal point is going to be, or it will be, 8.6. We move the decimal point one space at right. Why? 1, because we did exactly the same in the divisor. Now, this is going to be the new division. Let's do it as usual in the long way. Then it's going to be 80. Let me explain this. 8.6 divided by 7. And let's do as usual. Then 8, the first number, divided by 7 is 1. Put it here. 1 times 7 is 7 right here, and let's subtract 8 minus 7 is 1. Now we have to take the next number down. The next number is 6, but 6 is after decimal point. After decimal point, then in that moment we have to put the decimal point in the quotient. When we have to take the number after decimal point down, then put it down, 6 down, and immediately put the decimal point in the quotient. Okay, and let's continue the division. Then it's 16 divided by 7. 16 divided by 7 is 2. 2 times 7 is 14. Then write number here, and let's subtract. The answer obviously is going to be 2. And we can continue the division just writing zeros in the remainder. Okay, then 0 here. Why we have to put zeros? Because we put the decimal point in the quotient, then we are allowed to put zeros. Then 20 divided by 7. 20 divided by 7 is 2 one more time. Then 2 times 7 is 14. Then write 14 here and continue the subtraction. This is going to be exactly 6, the answer. Now let's continue. 6 is possible divided by 7? No, but we can put a 0 here, and now it's going to be 60 divided by 7. This is going to be 8. Okay, let me erase. Okay, then is 8. 8 times 7 is 56. Then 56 here and subtract, and the answer now is going to be 0. As we can see, we have here that we have many decimal numbers in the decimal part. Then we can just stop there and round the answer. Okay, round the answer. Then finally, as a conclusion, we can say that 0.86 divided by 0.7 is approximately 1.23. 1.23, because we can round here this answer to the nearest hundreds, and in here the answer is going to be 1.23. Okay, guys, this is division. Now let's talk about exponents. Exponents are shorthand to repeated multiplication. Okay, then we have to remember some cases for fractions and for decimals. Then, for example, 2 over 3 square, or to the second power. That's mean 2 over 3 times 2 over 3. Multiplication is face to face, numerator, numerator, denominator, denominator. 2 times 2 is 4, and 3 times 3 is 9. Then the answer is 4 over 9. Another example. What about this? 5 over 2 to the third power, or cubed. This is equals to 5 over 2 times 5 over 2 times 5 over 2. In here, exactly the same, numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. Then 5 times 5 is 25, plus times 5 is 125. At the bottom, exactly the same, 2 times 2, 4 times 2, 8. That's the final answer. Remember, if the fraction is possible to simplify, we have to simplify, otherwise stop there. Now, what about exponent with decimals? In a similar way, we have the same conditions. Then, for example, 0.5 square, that is 0.5 times 0.5. 5. You have to solve the multiplication, and you can see that the answer is going to be 0.25. Okay? Another example. 1.2 cubed, or to the power of 3, is equals to 1.2 times 1.2 times 1.2. Okay? If you solve the multiplication one by one, the 1.2 times 1.2 and the answer for the multiplication times 1.2, you can notice that the answer will be 1.700 or 1.728. Okay, or 1 and 728 thousandths. Okay, guys, that's all for this explanation, for this video. Thank you so much. Bye bye.